Hi, this is Catherine Rosine with Board Game Geek here at SPIEL 2016. I'm sitting here with Ian Brody from PSC Games, and he's here to talk about 1914. Quartermaster General, right?
Yes. So this is the third game in the Quartermaster General system, aside from the two expansions for the first game. This one covers all of the First World War, and like the other ones in the system, takes about 90 minutes and straddles the line between Eurogame and Wargame. It plays 2 to 5 players with the Central Powers versus the Triple Entente plus 2. If you know your history, that's almost funny. And if you know Knights at Dinner Table, that's almost funnier. The game, what you're looking at now is the game set up as it begins. So each player starts with 2 pieces, and there's 1 piece per space. And each player, if there's 5 of you, has their own deck of cards. So it's really like a card-driven game with the board as an interface. So now the cards have various types. So there's land battles and events and economic warfare and whatnot. They're all, the whole idea is to immerse you in a narrative, a thematic narrative of an alternate history of what might have happened should the cards have played out differently.
Interesting.
You win and lose as a team, and it plays through 17 rounds. And that essentially after the winter of a year, there's a scoring round, and these stars are where you would get most of your victory points, but there's other cards that will also give you victory points.
Now you said you play and win as a team. Does that mean it's teams against each other, or is it everyone against the board?
No, it is the Central Powers versus the Triple Entente.
Yes.
However, as a team game, you cannot share information about your cards, so you don't have one person telling everybody else what to do.
So you're sitting with your own information,
exactly.
And you have to try to share that information without actually communicating, right?
Exactly. Aside from my own games, my favorite game on BGG, highest rated, is Bridge, believe it or not, because I happen to think it's amazing that you can have a luck of the draw and still have the better team win every hand. And I really, in a weird way, like all of my games are somehow Bridge-like, in that sense that I like the aspect of a team, but I like the fact that there's limited information and the players have to convey their strategy via their play and not via just going off the other room. Right, go ahead, sorry.
No, that's it. It's that being able to communicate without actually using words is
right.
It's not always easy for everyone.
No. It's use your words, we say to our daughter. So as you can see, there the powers that were at war at the beginning of the war are already on the board, and there you will also see pieces come in from the Ottoman Turks, Italy, and the United States later on. Unlike World War I, it does not drag on forever. But interestingly enough, in that hour and a half, you end up with the same odd decisions that the commanders made. So one of the aspects is that you're constantly trying to drain the other person's deck. When your deck runs out, you don't get any more cards.
Oh.
So you say, and your deck is essentially your resources. All the decks are completely different. They have different mixes of battles, builds, sea cards, events, economic warfare, and but when your cards start to run, when your cards run out, you have very limited options. And so you're creating this calculus of death that is, okay, if I lose 4 cards and you lose 5, I win. So, which is sort of gruesome, but it's an abstract, and so you don't worry about that too much. It's like all war games.
But those are actual decisions that people had to make during those wars,
Right. So, and I hope the game, through the sort of light simulation aspect, you realize why they may have made those decisions until new technologies came about.
That would help them avoid some of the worst decisions that they had to make, right?
I mean, I'm myself a pacifist, but when I play a war game, I'm not. So I'm on cardboard very much.
It's always the pacifists who tend to be the most aggressive, right?
Right. That's how we get out our aggressions.
I have to say, I really like these miniatures as well. They're nice and hard, and they're got a bit of sheen to them.
So
very pretty.
Thank you. I started started Griggling Games, but this is not a Griggling game. It's still in the Quartermaster General line, but I teamed up with the Plastic Soldier Company because one of the things about the original Quartermaster General is that many, but not all people would have preferred plastic miniatures, but that was sort of outside the skill set of me and my team. So when Plastic Soldier Company contacted me to do a game, I was like, oh, you're called Plastic Soldier Company? Let's talk.
I was going to say, I mean, it looks like the little toys that little boys would play with.
Yes, yes.
It's fantastic.
And so, yeah.
Little girls.
Yes, thank you. I have a little girl, and I would like to appreciate that she. And by the way, my wife is my #1 opponent. And if
fantastic.
you all, wish you had a wife that played war games with you, well, mine does. So I win.
Fantastic. So. Yes, you do. I don't play very much with my husband, unfortunately.
I'm sorry. You should try this one. This is the one. If you look at, I've gotten so many comments on BGG and other reviewers like Tabletop 2. That Quartermaster General, the original, was the only war game that so many women would play. However, I don't think that they just go to enough war game conventions, because if you go to WBC, it also many women, some women there that are playing war games, and even the worst of the worst. And so I very much, anyhow, let's move away from gender stereotypes and stick to the game. During your turn, you're going to have 5 steps, and each one is optional. The first is that you can discard 2 cards from your hand if you want to, which is a draft step, which will get you a build army or build navy from your draw deck. That doesn't happen too often, but if it's an emergency, you get it. Then you may play 1 card from your hand of 7. Next, if you have prepared already an attrition card, then you can use that during your attrition step. You'll notice that each one of the cards has 2 parts. The top part is what happens, this part is what happens in the play step, and this would happen if it's prepared, and so that little black background skull is an attrition symbol.
And so this would be a different one.
Exactly, and that's sort of a double sustained land battle. And there's a chart in the player aid that gives you a key to all the symbols. It's about 2 rounds in, you have them all memorized, but this is especially helpful because it tells you how many of the distribution of the various symbols in the deck.
So you said it's a team game. Does that mean that you can play only 2 players, or can you play 4,
no,
6?
You can play anywhere from 2 to 5, but all of the decks are in play because it's a historical game and we can't omit some major powers. But if you have less than 5, then some players will play 2 or more decks. I mean, if it's 2 players, one person can play all 3 of the Entente decks. So.
How long does the game typically take to play?
About 90 minutes.
That's not too bad.
It can be shorter. The first play, like all games, will take a little bit longer as you're learning it. And also, because the cards have a lot of text on them, as you play the game more and more, you stop having to read the text.
And you'll be able to recognize that specific card does
exactly
what it does.
Like playing Magic or something like that, which is in that. I mean, in many ways, many years ago, my wife had a game shop, and when a young, brilliant child taught me how to play Magic in a minute, and he gave me one of his decks, and I had never played, and I was an old-time war gamer, but it was like, okay, I got to learn this because it's a popular game, and I was like, okay, this is brilliant, because you taught me in a minute, but there's all this information on the cards, and so I was like, well, there should be war games. So this was back in that, or like that. So this is back in 2001. So then fast forward, so now I'm actually doing that sort of thing where I said there should be, okay, I'll do that.
The actual rules themselves aren't necessarily that complicated, but there's a lot of rules in the cards.
That's right.
That you'll gradually learn as you continue to play the game.
Exactly. And exactly. And one of the things that really appeals is that to people is that a lot of the math that is associated with war games is gone, because I do that as I'm like the Mac of designers. So that you'll notice the decks are different sizes. You may not notice, but trust me, they are.
I can tell. I can tell.
But essentially, I'm doing something like trying to understand the war-making GDP between the various powers, and then, but expressing that in the deck size and not having you to count like industrial production certificates or something. I don't want to steal that. I won't diss that game. But doing a lot of stuff, and there's no basics math. of trying to figure out how many dice are going to happen, so that you know, a lot of so it's really this distribution in the deck to reflect that their historical capabilities, and in the end, you end up with a narrative of the game. For all of my titles, for this one, Victory or Death, which is about the Peloponnesian War that came out of Gen Con, and the original Quartermaster General, I really encourage people to read the card title because it makes it
helps you immerse into the
right,
theme.
exactly. Understand how the theme is being expressed by the game. With Cossacks, Kerensky vows to continue war,
right?
You know, on and on. So there's, you know, I mean, the more you know about the history, the more, you know, the more rewarded you'll be.
Yeah, the more you'll be able to immerse yourself into the game, right?
And if you don't, and if you don't know anything about it, you'll learn something, and you don't have to know it to play. But it definitely
and maybe that'll make you interested in learning more about the period.
Hopefully.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
That is 1914 from PSC Games.